evening. This is the Design Review Commission meeting for Monday, May 22nd, 2023. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and it is now 6:30 p.m. Next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Chair Sala.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair Romo,
Here.
Vice Chair Salo,
Here.
Commissioner Tu.
And Commissioner Lopez is absent this evening.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on cable channel 3 and on online platforms. To prevent any overlaps in comments, each commissioner will be called upon to speak. Item 1, public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the Design Review Commission on items of interest that are not on the agenda, but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Design Review Commission cannot answer any questions or take action until such time as the matter may appear on an agenda in the future. If you wish to address the Design Review Commission, please fill out a speaker card that is available on the back table. Once completed, kindly submit the card to the recording secretary. Speakers will be called upon to the podium one by one. Each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes. Any cards?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. We'll move on to consent calendar. All items under the consent calendar are considered routine and recommendations. Will be approved in one motion unless a member of the Design Commission or public requests separate discussion. Commissioner Tu, do you have any items you want to take off the consent calendar?
No, thank you.
Vice Chair Sala?
No, thank you.
Okay. Have we received any requests from the public?
No, Madam Chair.
And at this time, I'd like to get a motion. Or Secretary Gabriel? Okay, we don't have any. Okay, so motion to approve the minutes for the April 24th meeting on the consent calendar.
I motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Romo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Salo,
Yes.
Commissioner Tu.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Public hearing.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. The item this evening is a discussion item. Typically at this time, staff will go through the procedures for speaking and commenting. For this particular item, staff will be providing a summary of the report. And really, due to the volume of information, the presentation being presented by staff this evening will be broken up into 3 parts, starting with Associate Planner Anthony Alvarado, followed by Christine Song, Senior Planner, then Marlene Cervantes, Assistant Planner. And also, staff would like to extend appreciation to the City Architect team also for assisting with this project, as the Commission will hear. And so what staff is looking for this evening is to receive comments from the Design Review Commission. An action is not needed from the Commission this evening. Just comments to receive and to pass on to the Planning Commission. Ultimately, this is a zone text amendment that will go before the Planning Commission as well as the City Council for the final action on the zone text amendment. So with that, I will pass the presentation to Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So the item before you tonight is, as Sam was discussing, is for the adoption of the objective design standards for multifamily and mixed-use projects within the city limits. So first, we'll start off with discussing some of the recently adopted housing legislation in the city, or in the state. So over the past several years, the state of California has been in a housing crisis, and as a response to that, the bills shown on the screen had been adopted. Some of them already in place, and some of them going into place beginning July 1st of 2023. So Senate Bill 35, Senate Bill 330 already in effect. Senate Bill 6 and Assembly Bill 2011 are the ones that are going to go into effect July 1st, 2023. So what these bills did was they provided a streamlined application process for eligible multifamily and mixed-use development projects, and would also approve affordable housing proposals through a ministerial process based on objective standards if the city chose to adopt objective standards. So the process of following objective design standards has certain applicability requirements, such as affordability, or a percentage of the project has to be residential if it's a mixed-use development. So under the state laws, only the qualifying multifamily projects or mixed-use projects would be applicable for these bills. It's not for all multifamily or mixed-use development. So on March 2nd, 2023, a joint study session was held with City Council and the Planning Commission, at which point staff presented this information to the City Council. A lot of it actually geared towards the new bills that were coming into place with Assembly Bill 2011 and Senate Bill 6. But what we also touched base on was the discussion of these objective design standards and what steps would need to be taken by staff and the city to adopt these in time for the potential one of these projects coming forward to the city, and the city having some language that we could use to review these projects against. So first, what is an objective design standard? So Government Code 65913.4 and 66300A7 define an objective design standard as a standard that would involve no personal or subjective judgment by a public official and are unlikely or uniformly verifiable by reference to an external and uniform benchmark or criterion available and knowable by both the development applicant or proponent and the public official before submittal. So since the objective design standards are either measurable or verifiable by staff, the review, as stated before, is a ministerial review and not discretionary, so it's something that would not go forward with the public hearing process. So just an example of what an objective design standard is as compared to subjective guideline. So the language on the left is subjective, where slope roofs are generally used to express the sheltering character of multifamily buildings. So what we used for the objective design standard to kind of build off of this language was we provided that these covered roofs had to be mandatory. They were permanently covered roofs that needed to be incorporated with a minimum dimension or the minimum depth of 3 feet, width of 4 feet, and they're provided for all the units on the ground floor. That's something that's measurable, and that's something that's verifiable by staff. So this slide shows a list of the zones where a project might be applicable for these objective design standards for their project. I'm not going to touch on the specific plans because that's something that Christine and Marlon are going to touch base on. It is important to note that the objective design standards, that the development standards for the zones listed above would still apply. These objective design standards would only supplement the existing development codes, such as lot coverage, setbacks, things like that. Those would still all apply. These design standards would only supplement those existing standards. Okay, so currently the city has existing multifamily residential and commercial design guidelines. These guidelines would seek to improve the level of design quality by focusing on important design principles. Some of those design principles are shelter, transition, balance, detailing, rhythm, integrity, substance, and character. Staff, and this is also including our city architect and our landscape city architect, would utilize these guidelines when reviewing proposed projects in the city. However, a lot of these existing guidelines have language that is too subjective, and it's something that we can't use with the objective design standards. So what staff and the help with the city architect did is we kind of use these design guidelines as a framework to build off of, and we use that to develop the objective design standards that you see in the packets today. So above it is an example of some of the objective design standards that we are proposing. As you can see, the standards are measurable and verifiable, such as a change in height of at least 18 inches from the height of the abutting facade. That's something that's measurable. Entrance to the ground floor use or primary building entrance, it's clearly pointing out where those entrances are. So this is something that our city architect has helped us with providing sketches for. This is just one of the examples of the sketches that they provided to us. So we will be including these sketches in the ordinance that is adopted and implemented or written into the code, as well as if they apply into the specific plans for the Valley Boulevard and Mission District. Yeah, so with that, I'm going to pass the presentation over to Senior Planner Christine Song, who's going to discuss the objective design standards in one of those areas. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. As you know, the Valley Boulevard specific plan area is the city's most vital commercial corridor, and there are several pockets of residential neighborhoods in this area. Most of the large-scale projects in the city are built in this area. When staff set out to draft the objective design standards for this specific plan area, we combed through the existing specific plan document and realized that there's already a great deal of objective development standards that exist. So the goal was really to supplement those and to take some of the existing design language and to make it measurable and clear so that they could apply to a variety of projects with different architectural styles and densities. This is a draft objective design standard. This one speaks to entrances for projects in the Valley Boulevard specific plan area. So you'll see very similar to the example that Anthony provided earlier. The left side would be the existing design guideline, and on the right side, it's the objective standard, which is definitely measurable and verifiable. It provides minimum number of exterior pedestrian entrances, and it also provides a minimum recess of 5 feet that must be provided for the building's primary entryway to create a porch or landing area. So the goal is really to provide clear and effective standards that can be applied to all development across the board, and it's something that can be easily understood by staff, by members of the public, by design professionals, and even decision makers. So this is an exhibit that was also provided by the city architect. It illustrates one of the draft objective design standards. If you refer to attachment C in your packets, it's under the building mass and articulation section. There's a standard that says that building facades that are 50 feet or longer should provide a break in the wall plane every 25 feet with a minimum depth of 2 feet and a minimum length of 20 feet. So this is a pretty good illustration of that, of how that can be provided in a project. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Planner Marlon Cervantes. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, and members of the Design Review Commission. When the Mission District specific plan was drafted and adopted nearly 20 years ago, special care was taken to maintain the historic nature and the character of the area. The plan's overall goals include ensuring community-based concepts and designs for the district, building economic vitality in the Mission District, and preserving historic architectural treasures while guiding the district's future. General goals in the plan also include encouraging and supporting mixed-use development, as well as providing housing alternatives for people wanting to walk to work or to use public transportation. Along with the plan's overall and general goals, it also provides a number of key objectives for implementation of the plan. One of those objectives is architectural design. This includes providing descriptions of significant architectural styles used in the Mission District, relating to composition, design, details, and materials unique to each of these styles. This objective also includes establishing architectural standards for the district. Our goal when drafting the objective design standards is to complement the existing standards by providing verifiable and measurable standards that are consistent with the goal of maintaining the Mission Revival and Spanish colonial architectural styles in the district. One example provided here for comparison is that the design guideline that's given in the specific plan is that detail shall be used as an essential small-scale element of residential character. This guideline is not measurable, nor can it be verified in an objective manner, and can be up for interpretation. Some examples of objective design standards that serve to meet this guideline are specific dimensions for door and window recesses, the inclusion of certain details such as windowsills, and a clear identification of materials and finishes that must be used. In this case, the use of smooth trowel stucco with bold noose corners. Detail is just one aspect of architectural design that's included in the creation of objective design standards for the Mission District specific plan area. Others include building massing, articulation, and roof design. Together with the help of our city architect, we've come up with a comprehensive set of objective standards that will not only accompany the specific plan documents and guidelines, but will also simplify the design process for projects seeking to take advantage of these Assembly and State Senate bills in each respective area of the city. We're still working on finalizing the figures and diagrams to provide visuals for how the standards will apply, but in the meantime, I've provided an example for a previously approved and constructed development in the Mission District. The callouts you see here are all examples of objective design standards that have been provided as attachment D to your staff report. These include parapet walls capped with stucco cornice, red clay or concrete tile roofing materials on pitched roofs, roofs with overhanging eaves featuring stained or painted wood, 2-inch minimum recessed windows with windowsills, and canvas awnings with an angled surface as opposed to dome surfaces, open on both sides and with a straight or scallop valance. That concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available for any questions or comments.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I have a question. So a project that meets the standard for the objective design standards is still going to go through the design review?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. So these standards, objective design standards, are meant to be provided to the applicants to kind of bypass that process of going to design review. So we're giving them something that a list of things that they would have to incorporate in their project if they want to get it approved without going to the discretionary process, so the public hearing process.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Salo?
Yeah, I do have a question. There was an exhibit that showed a storefront elevation at 50 feet, linear feet or more shall have a break at every 25 feet, which is fine. I was just wondering, does that language allow for them to break it up into smaller portions?
Yes, it would. This is just setting a minimum distance where they would need to provide that articulation.
Okay. Does the Is signage covered in this at all? This is a separate question, sorry.
Signage is not covered.
Okay, thank you.
So the signage would be brought to the design commission with their design package?
Individual signs would not. If it's a master sign program, I believe
Master sign
that's,
program would.
I believe that would still be, yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right. My question, I was in the report in our packet, it talked about landscaping with the objective standards. With the landscaping standards, are there requirements separate for sizes of trees in the parkway, staking of trees, the maintenance of trees? Because I think in going around the city, some of that is hit or miss. And a lot of times it's a miss. So if we're putting these development standards, I'd like to see about some objective language regarding the care of maintenance, unless that's already in the city's requirements already.
It's your section.
Yes, so, thank you, Madam Chair. So, the language that is discussing landscaping, was incorporated by our city landscape architect. So they are already familiar with our code language. So I believe there is some code language in there regarding staking and, maintenance of the trees, protection of the trees, but that's something that we could definitely jot down and, work with them on,
Yes.
to make sure that that's, adequately addressed.
Because unfortunately, things that are in the public right-of-way that are living, if they can get beat up. Plants can be stolen, trees can be, I'm old and I've seen a lot, but I've seen trees on Colorado Boulevard just kind of broken in half. Trees on Las Tunas, people do funky things, some people don't want trees, so they cut them, poison them, throw things in the tree well. It's all there. So I think the more that we can do for that maintenance aspect and guiding them so we can try to build a good urban forest and planting materials is all important. And since we're
Absolutely.
doing this, why
Yeah,
not?
no, absolutely, thank you, yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that we could follow up with them on.
So is this the section that we're going to ask all the questions or comments?
So any questions on
Okay,
this
okay.
proposal?
Okay, I do have another question. So when I look at these two standards, the first one is for project that is residential only with 2 or more dwelling units. And the second one for mixed-use project that is actually like any mixed project that has at least 2/3 of the square footage of development is designed for residential use. It seems like there's projects that would fall through the cracks of these two definitions. And is this standard would also apply for project that maybe has multiple unit but is actually less than 2/3 of square footage are residential use?
So, just to clarify, Commissioner, you're discussing the mixed-use project definition, or?
Both, because the multifamily project as definition is residential use only with 2 or more dwelling units. And the mixed-use project has a definition of at least 2/3 of the square footage of the development is designated for residential use. What if the project is mixed use but with less than 1/3 of the residential floor area, or less than 2/3? Yeah.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that in order for these projects to comply with the state laws, one of the requirements for mixed-use projects is that they have to provide at least 2/3 of the development as residential. So if a project, a mixed-use development came along and it was under that 2/3, this process, they wouldn't be able to go through this. It wouldn't be applicable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I also have another, I'm sorry. I saw, I mean, it's really, I think the team has spent a lot of time to make it really objective. I noticed that for the landscaping, for all projects, a minimum of 10 ground cover and shrub species. And variety should be required for all projects. Because it seems like the project scale here, we're talking about varies a lot, from like a 2-unit dwelling project to like maybe hundreds of units of mixed-use project. 10 species required for all projects, would that be something really feasible for all projects, or we should have more specific guideline co-align with the scale of the projects? I'm not a landscape architect, so I don't know exactly like 10 species. How does it feel like when you put 10 species all together for like a 2-dwelling unit project, right?
I mean, that's something that we could definitely, we are still going to have discussions with our city landscape architect, and that's something that we could also touch base on. But maybe if the commission could provide some kind of, whether we ratio it out, if it's under so many units, maybe the species number is this. If it's over so many units, maybe the species number is this. And again, that's something that we could definitely work on with our city landscape architect too, to kind of confirm it.
I think as you recommended right now, or just kind of got that off the top of your head to kind of get some feedback, I think having that scaling on how the landscape is going to be treated, both number of units and linear frontage, because I think those are the two things when you look at a project that you have a lot of linear footage and a little bit of units, then that might be funky. But we really want plant materials out there, so I would put those two criteria as you're looking at that. I think that was an excellent comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I also have another comments on the retail components of the mixed-use project. As far as I can see, so pretty much the objective standard for both for multifamilies and mixed use, they are pretty similar, and there is really few differences that I can see. For the mixed-use project, it has a little more varieties in the building material selections, and the architectural details, or not architectural details, the open space. The street front building facade must be designed with active frontage, with include at least 2 of the following. So that is actually pretty specific for mixed-use project only. But I sense that it's kind of like missing the design guideline for retail component. A lot of emphasis is actually in the residential unit treatment.
Yes, sorry, I'm just jotting down some notes. So I think we do have, and part of this is we also did some research by looking at other cities and what they adopted. So I do remember seeing some language, and I don't know if it made it on here, but language about requiring for mixed-use development on the first level a certain percentage of transparency or windows for these retail commercial components.
Yeah, I might be missing it. I didn't see that actually.
Yeah, I don't think that made it in here, so we could actually look at incorporating something like that and work with our city architect on some appropriate language for that. I know that we do have something where it talks about the corner buildings. um, The clicker. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Number E,
Yeah. Yes, so 2E in the building and balance. So that's something where it's appropriate for the image above, where it shows a mixed-use development, where it has that entrance facing on on that corner to give it a prominent corner. But something else that we could possibly add is looking to add that language that talks about the transparency and at least a minimum percentage of transparency on that ground floor, if that's something that the commission would like to add.
Yes, I think typically for retail design, the transparency at the retail active floor area is critical design element, yes.
and I think in the Mission District specific plan, with the objectives, design standards that are in our packet, that has a little bit more detail regarding the type of glass, you know, large window panes. That says only, only applicable. So that's something on attachment D for exterior building details. So are you looking at something like that here on this?
Is that for the mission district specific plan language?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm trying to see if that's something that Commissioner Two is looking for.
Right, I think there's two different specific plan standard, right, for the
Yes.
valley
Yes.
one and the mission district. There could be different application, right?
Right.
It's really different distinguish design feature.
Because we do have different districts, I think Valley Boulevard is more modern. The Mission District, there's things on height, and I don't know with when the Mission District specific plan was written, we were looking at the Mission Playhouse and the Mission being the tallest building, so do these standards supersede what was placed in the specific plans as far as the height is concerned? No, so we're
No.
still looking at that maximum height.
Correct, because
Okay.
those development standards would still be in place.
Okay, so it won't be the 35 or 45 feet for the other districts that allow for,
Correct. So, yeah, it would be whatever, so for the mission district specific plan, it would be those maximum height limits. So that could differ from, like you said, Valley Boulevard, where,
right.
yeah. And I think I did find some language regarding that transparency on the ground floor. So it's actually in our Valley Boulevard objective design standard, so attachment C. It's going to be the second page, so kind of a third or 2/3 of the way down, where it has a section for mixed use. It says a minimum of 50% of the ground floor facade shall consist of glass doors and windows.
Attachment C.
Yes.
And I think it's important
yes.
to have that first floor being articulated very differently,
Mhm.
because that's what's going to build your pedestrian environment.
Right.
From what the state's trying to do is put these higher densities where in traffic corridors. So you need to do things to help people those traffic corridors. Before I go to our city architect, I just want to make sure that we cover all your points.
Yes. I just want to add one more last thing that, because we do have this minimum 50% of ground floor facade should consist glass door and windows. And I do notice that in the mixed-use standard that it says the list of building materials will be allowed. It didn't list the glass wall or curtain wall or storefront system.
Okay, so you're referring to number 3G?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, no, that's a good comment, thank you. So we'll add that with the windows glass would be something that would be allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification. A prerequisite to any of these things we're talking about is that you're submitting something under AB 2011 or SB 6, or is it? So that means it's an affordable project or has a high degree of affordability and has all these other things, then we can talk about all this stuff. So if it's just a more typical project, it would go through the normal pattern.
Commissioner Vice Chair Sala.
Clarification. On the slide regarding AB 2011, it indicates that there would create a ministerial streamline approval process for two types of projects. One, 100% affordable housing projects in commercial zones. That's a pretty high standard, 100%. Is that common, or is that something we can expect? I mean, are developers doing that?
I work on a lot of projects like that.
Okay. That's good to know. And I guess my follow-up question, and maybe it's answered by item 2, is that what if a developer was only doing like 50% or 75%? Would they also qualify for this ministerial review, this streamlined process?
So which one are you referring to? What bill are you referring to?
AB 2011, WIC's Affordable Housing and High Road Job Acts of 2022.
Okay. And you're referring to the slides that were provided as attachment A, where it kind of discusses the requirements for it?
Yeah. I just want to know if a development that did not have 100% affordable housing project would still qualify for ministerial review, because the way it's phrased here sounds like I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it would, again, AB 2011 is only one of the 4. This one does require it to be the affordable housing. It would have to be an affordable housing project. But there are other ones, such as, I think, 330, if I'm not mistaken, does not require the whole thing to be affordable. But that's something that they could still follow these objective design standards. So there's still a different route to take.
Okay.
And the city is seeing some affordable projects or affordable applications come in. It might not be that the whole project is affordable, but we are starting to see that come in more and more, especially with the inclusionary housing ordinance.
Another point of clarification on attachment A, page 2, the first bullet point says the project should either be 100% affordable or a mixed income housing project along a commercial corridor. And then the first bullet point on page 3 of attachment A explains the mixed income, 8% very low income, or 5% extremely low income, or 15% lower income, or 30% moderate. So there's a menu that a developer could have, and they would have to compute all these things and then present to you, this is what we're doing.
Okay, that makes sense. It does cover it. I did have another comment. This one is just there was one of the slides, I think part of this package of sketches, that showed the Cadillac dealership. Forward. No, it was the very dense slide. Yeah, this one.
Okay.
So I think it mentions that, the simple composition of the 1940s car dealership showing the enduring beauty of balanced masses. I mean, I really appreciate that this building was included because although a lot of buildings have been lost, the city does have a history of modern architecture,
Mhm.
and I would love for developers to be more aware that it exists because a lot of them come here with a presumption of that there's only one style for the city, and they're just simply unaware that I think it was the drive-in neon signs, a lot of modern architecture, an era of optimism in the city that unfortunately has been lost. So we can include more of this to just help remind them that it's an option. I think that would be great. So thanks for putting that in there.
So these are actually slides taken right out of the design guidelines that we currently have. A lot of this language is, as mentioned, was subjective, but we could probably use some of these sketches or examples to incorporate in our new language if they show or reference something that we're trying to incorporate. Thank you.
By the way, in these design guidelines that were written a long time ago, the top 2/3 are what the city would like, and the bottom third is what they don't like. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. The black and white grayed out.
Yeah, as a parent, one of the things, when I was going to parent ed classes, they said, when you have a child, you tell them what you want. Because when you say, don't jump on the bed, they hear, jump on the bed. So when we have things like this, we shouldn't even show things that we do not like because people will see it and say, I saw this image on your city brochure. So I learned a lot in life from going to parent ed classes. But it does make a difference. And I do think that for Las Tunas Drive, when we're looking at different types of architecture styles, I mean, there's a lot of leeway there. Valley Boulevard, we have a lot of leeway. My comment on the project that was on Fairview a few years back, trying to get that instead of having it was a really nice Mission Revival style house that was being proposed. It's like, this is our post-World War II 1940s district. Let's keep things in that style on Fairview since we have our signs, because that's how we build our identity. And I remember Martin Weil, who was the city contract architect 20 years ago, he was saying, the housing stock in San Gabriel, these little ranch-style homes, that's the hip architecture that people want, and we shouldn't just be letting that go without a fight. So it's something that we want to celebrate, and I think that type of architecture and having that sign be part, there's a building, I think it's a dance studio. There used to be an auto dealership on Las Tunas and Junipero on the southeast corner. That one has some interesting features like that. There used to be a Saab dealership way back when. I told my husband, I'm a Saab. But I'm getting off topic here. Are there any other comments? Ron, anything else?
Just a side note, because with all your planners, I've said the same things. I don't know why so many homeowners want to ruin their beautiful homes with terrible ideas. This is bad.
So I think we have all of our comments. is now 7:15, and the time for public comment is now closed. Do we have any from the public?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so at 7:15, public comment is now closed, and we go to item number 4, comment from the planning manager.
Just a quick comment that the next meeting, the agenda will be full, so attendance from the commissioners will be very important for the next meeting.
Right, and item number 5, commissioner comments on, and conference meeting reports. Each commissioner may address the commission on public matters of general information and/or concern. This is also a time for commissioners to report on conferences or meetings they have attended. Commissioner 2?
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
Vice Chair Salo?
No, nothing to add, thank you.
I don't have anything either. So with that, we go to item number 6, adjourning our Design Review Commission to our regular meeting of the Design Review Commission on Monday, June 26th at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall, 425 South Mission Drive, second floor,